All right, we are joined here today by Adam Boyer, head coach of the Spalding University men's soccer team, to take a look back on the last decade of SLIAC men's soccer. Coach, thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate you having me on, Brian.
My first question for you, you started your coaching career at Spalding in 2012. That also was the first year of Julio DeLeon, who immediately asserted himself as one of the league's top playmakers, recording 3 straight double-digit assist seasons. What made Julio such a special player?
Well, yeah, he was a really special player, and I think with Julio, he just had a real natural feel for the game. He was just smooth on the ball. He had a sixth sense for where defenders were and where he needed to take his first touch to create space, and then just his ability with his left foot to whip in a free kick on a corner or slot a ball in behind to one of our talented strikers on the roster that year. He just knew where to put the ball and when to put it there, and was able to do that in different ways. So was a really fun player to coach, had a great attitude, always had a workmanlike aspect to him, and had a ton of assists over his 4 years at Spalding, and some well-earned all-conference and newcomer of the year awards.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he was definitely fun to watch. 2016 was another big year for you and your program, with Osman Hussein and Joey Lesher winning top awards and leading your team to their first ever regular season title. Can you talk about those two players a little bit?
Well, I think to have special seasons, you've got to have special players. And, those two guys, Osman Hussein, offensive player of the year, newcomer of the year, Joey Lesher, defensive player of the year, our first All-American, academic All-American in program history. Those two were really special players. And, the unique part about those guys is that, Osman was on one end scoring goals and creating opportunities going forward. And Joey was on the other end, defending and getting his team organized and preventing the team from giving up goals. So, those two guys really led the way that year. It was a really talented group. And, when you have two players of that ability to look at for 90 minutes, it allows you to play the best version of yourself, and for us to go win 9 straight regular season games and reach that tournament championship.
I wanted to talk to you next about a current player who's a unique aspect of this all-decade team and that they're still active, your goalkeeper, Trevor Massa. Can you talk about the impact he's had in such short a time with your program?
Well, right. Yeah. I mean, it was a big deal for him to win that award last year as a sophomore, and something that we were really proud of and happy for him. And he really, he earned it. He was really consistent over the course of the season. He's been very consistent in conference play over the course of 2 seasons during his freshman year as well. And, Trevor is very consistent. He's very technical, but he also brings a strong element of leadership. And, my head coach that I played for at Center College always said that you're only as good as your goalkeeper. And we've had a really, really strong goalkeeper in between the 2 posts over the last 2 seasons. And it's had a big help in some of our success on the field.
It sure has. Westminster had a run here during this past decade of, with a core of Drew Cook, Daryl Duran, Raul Romero, and Tripp Sheenan. Can you talk about that core during that run that they had?
Well, I think anytime you win 5 straight conference championships and represent your conference for 5 straight years at the national tournament, I mean, you're talking about a pretty dominating era and a pretty dominating run for those Westminster teams. And, I think that group that you just mentioned, they had a couple seasons there where they made the Sweet 16 and then followed it up with a run to the second round of the national tournament. And they were really talented teams, and not just in regards to the conference and the region, but on the national level. And, I think that was a really special group, and that was coached by Andrew initially. And then the second coaching staff came through with Adam, and, those guys did a great job of just continuing and nurturing that group to play the championship winning soccer.
Another unique thing looking at this all-decade team is when you see a player that's made all-conference all 4 years. You've had a couple of those in your program in Abdullahi and Cornell Hilliard. Can you talk about those 2 players a little bit?
Absolutely. Well, we'll talk about Cornell first because he's coming off what was an incredible senior season last year, Conference Player of the Year, first team All-Region. It was just the feather in his cap after a 4-year career with a ton of accolades. And, I always say with Cornell, if you just look at the success that he had over his 4 years, it speaks to the quality of player that he is and the leadership that he provided and his ability to help Spalding become a program that was a level above where it was when he started. And, Abdul came in our second season as a coaching staff. And if you watch Abdul's career, it was just very consistent. He was always scoring goals. He was always getting assists. He was always contributing to winning teams. And, it's tough to do that year after year after year after year and stay healthy and be successful in tallying points and helping your team win. And Abdul really did that and brought some significant sturdiness to the team and the program at that time.
We just talked about Cornell Hilliard, a prolific scorer. Let's talk about another prolific scorer in Principia College's Kaleb Keller. What do you see about Kaleb on the field?
Well, I see him scoring a lot of big-time goals to help them beat us. And I think that it really just kind of sums him up. I mean, what an incredible player and an incredible left foot and just an incredible ability to score goals. And what I really like about Kaleb is his engine. His first touch has a purpose. And every time he's on the ball, they're looking dangerous and they're, 2 seconds away from creating some type of goal scoring opportunity. And, I know it's incredible to see what he's done from a point standpoint in regards to games played and goals scored and assists tallied. And, wish him the best as we come into this senior year in the spring. Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit. What do you remember from Fontbonne University's Zach Meyer?
When we entered the conference as our coaching staff, Fontbonne was one of the stronger programs. I believe had just come off a national tournament bid a couple years before. And, Zach was one of their most dangerous players. And, Fontbonne's the only school in the conference that we've not won on the road at. And I think that just speaks to the quality of players that he's had and their ability to win close games. And, I was looking at some of the box scores from those years this morning that Zach was on the team, and he was consistently scoring goals and getting assists to help make it a difficult game, whether it was home or away.
One of the themes you've talked about here with all these all-decade players is consistency. And I think that also speaks of this next player I'm going to ask you about, Webster University's Justin Schmidt, the only 2-time SLIAC Defensive Player of the Year. What was it about Justin? Obviously, consistency, like we've talked about, but that you remember about Justin on the field, really running that back line and being the anchor of the Gorlock defense?
Well, I think, if you talk to Mike about him, Justin's coach, he's just going to speak really highly of him as both a student athlete and a person and a leader and a player. And he just kind of checks all the boxes for you and what you're looking for to have as a center back, as a captain, as somebody that is right there solidifying your team. And that's really what he did. I always look at Webster. They're just very consistent year after year after year. It's not up and down. It's not up and down. It's a very strong, sturdy program. And Justin has just been there, these last 4 years. And he's earned those 2 accolades, Conference Player of the Year and was an academic All-American as well. And has just really represented the conference extremely well.
And then finally, Coach, are there any other players as you look through this all-decade list that you really enjoyed watching on the soccer field during a game?
Well, I think it's a great list overall. And I think, what's so neat is to be able to reflect now on 8 seasons as a head coach and to see the quality of teams that have come across here. I give our coaches a ton of credit. There's been some consistency on the men's side, and these coaches have been here trying to build programs. And as a result of that, you're seeing some really talented players come through and represent your school on a conference level. And so it's just a great list overall, Brian, and we're so, appreciative to have players recognized alongside of it. And it'd be great to go take this group and go put them out on the field and go try to, beat some other all-decade team from a nearby conference. So I certainly would feel pretty confident in our ability to do that.
That's right. That's right. Well, Coach, thanks for taking a look back at this last decade of men's soccer in the SLIAC, and we look forward to seeing you out on the soccer field this spring.